let's take it up a notch to sales leadership. Let's have a look at, what is a sales leader's role, and what are you seeing changing out there in terms of what the stewardship of sales leadership should be about, and what's needed for good sales leaders in the 21st century? Not a too light a question.
I'd probably answer this in a bigger picture question, and I've often talked around my favourite 5 R's. So I think a sales leader can execute any coaching or sales training program, but if you don't have a number of key pillars, I would question how effective it could be. So the first one was recruitment, making sure you have the right people. And very simply, the second was remuneration, make sure you've got the right people and you're paying them properly. Thirdly, it's around recognition, making sure you've got the right people and catching them doing the right things frequently. And, over many years, I've learned that I think that's something that is so easy, but something that I find many sales leaders struggle with. Ask them, have you caught someone doing something right this week? And there's a general nodding of, yeah, I do that all the time. I'm pretty good at that. Can you give me an example? I sent out an email that was, it was pretty encouraging. And, did you do anything personally with an individual? Well, she knows that I think she's great. Okay, but have you actually told her is there a conversation where she's going home to her nearest and dearest and saying, guess what? My boss today told me, whatever it was. So recognition, I think, is critical. People thrive, whatever age, whatever height, thrive on positive reinforcement. The fourth of those R's is retention. So if you've got the right people, you're paying them correctly and incentivizing them, you're recognizing what it is that they do. That goes a long way towards retaining them. But I think there should be a retention strategy. A sales leader should be seen to be wanting to keep their best people and actively going about that. And again, an experience over many years that I often see is that most sales leaders spend their time with their problem children, with the people who aren't necessarily performing at the right level. It worries me that the best of the team are just left to their own devices, which some of them will want, wind them up and watch them go and do what they do well. But again, I'll go back to the recognition component. If they're not hearing it from you, it can be a fairly lonely, world at the top. You're spending all this time with mediocre or underperforming people. What about me? And the final one of those R's, which, to be honest, when I first came up with this, it was really beginning with E for education. But to try and neatly align it with my 5 R's, I called it revolutionary education. And there's a little bit of tongue in cheek. But the reality is, if this is to be one of the key pillars of a sales leader running a business, that education better be so good that it probably is almost revolutionary. It better be to the extent that other companies are saying, we should do that. We should employ that level of training. We should make that level of people investment. And so people should join that business and say, this is very different from what I've ever experienced before. And that training is product training, it's sales training, it's territory management training, it's negotiations training, it's a full gamut. And that probably equally importantly is that this isn't about an event. And if it is, I think it's a short-term investment that probably is doomed to fail. This is about a culture shift that the sales leader needs to lead, and their passion and their daily commitment to it needs to be tangible. If it was a dip a toe in the water and see whether it worked, I'd love to see programs that are successful with minimal level of commitment and minimal level of investment. So the final part of having put those 5 pieces in place, if you like, is to be sure that there is an ongoing annualized budgeted investment. We talked before about all the key stakeholders in a business. Everyone wants to put something in their investment budget for next year. So you'd want to hope that you can demonstrate that the investment that you made as a sales leader has produced tangible returns. It gets easier and easier each year then to ask for a similar level of investment in the ensuing years. Long answer, but I think really that's what sales leadership should be aiming to achieve.
Yeah, I agree entirely. And I think it's really, really important that people have some sort of support structure in place that allows them the opportunity to also to be able to check in on these sorts of things too. Back to the point of no random acts of sales or no random acts of sales leadership.